G'day and welcome back to the 40 channel. So on this episode we're going to be lining the inside of the tub with some sound deadener. Now the sound deadener I've got is this stuff here, Resomat. Now the best thing I like about this, because I can't really comment much on sound deadeners, but this stuff, Australian made. So for me, that's a bit of a winner. Now I've got a bit to learn about this 40. As you already know, I've wrapped a line to the inside of the tub and I've wrapped a line to the underneath to try to give it a little bit of a body to take away that tinniness. On top of that, we're going to use a Resomat, stop that heat coming up through the firewall, and also take away that a little bit more sound. Now, this Resomat was very kindly donated to me from Tool King, so a huge shout out to Tool King. Thanks guys, I really appreciate it. You guys will definitely be coming for a ride in my cruiser when it's all done. You guys have been a great support, so thank you for that. Once we get the Resomat down, then we can start fitting all the extra little components inside the body and on the tub. So all our brake, clutch and accelerator assembly can go in, all the things that bind onto the firewall can start going back together. So we need to get this Resomat down now, so let's get that happening. Got a self-adhesive backing on it. Okay. I haven't got very far into installing this Resomat, and I've already drawn blood. I am really putting blood, sweat and tears into this vehicle. There's the proof. I actually found the back of a Stanley knife, and the side of the Stanley knife works quite well. Really mould it in and run it around all our profiles. I'm really starting to figure out how this stuff goes down now. It's coming up awesome. So I've actually found that a Stanley knife without the blade works really well. You can really get in there and mould right around all the edges and really press it down with the round part here, as well as using this straight edge to really try to smooth out along there. Another part is I've got this blade that just happens to have like a nice rounded edge and smooth edge on the back there. I was using that. I was using a ballpoint hammer and trying to tap around and push in. It worked, but it didn't look as neat. Not that you're ever going to see it. And I've also just got a round bearing there that also helps push in. So really, anything that you can find that's got nice smooth edges on it, but solid enough to push around, seems to work pretty well. Now I can actually get a pen and just mark that edge around that I've drawn on. have to say, these King Tony scissors from Tool King, they work awesome for cutting rubber and this aluminium stuff. They've got a nice serrated edge on it, just cut perfectly. So any big bubbles, I'm just rolling it out with my old bearing here. The tighter you get it to finish, the better it's going to absorb that sound and heat to take all that real drumminess out of it. Alright, so one thing I found, if you get a bit of a bubble under it, you're trying to get that bubble out, just get your knife, just put a little tiny hole like that, and then just work over it. It pushes all the air out of that tiny little hole. No more bubble. Righto, so I've got pretty much all the big main pieces down. What's left now to do is just some small little gaps, obviously, so if you've got your angles and any bits that might have just not reached. So again, it might look a little bit patchwork when you get these other little bits and pieces, but what does it matter? On top of this will be going like a premium floor mat, and then on top of that will be going the new vinyl cover, so no one's ever going to see it, and the purpose of this will far outweigh what it looks like underneath. So hopefully it'll take that dead sound out of it, take a bit of that heat coming out of it through the engine bay and up through the gearbox. We've still got to cover the gearbox tunnel in it as well. But it's actually, look, it looks pretty cool. And hopefully it does the job it needs to do. Now we've got the trickier parts, like inside here where you've got your kick vent and some different shapes and stuff. So I just took my time using a tape measure, measuring it all around, and cut it all out. The easiest way to cut out your shape for the kick vent was I actually had the main shape cut out. I pushed it down and just pushed around the edge, and that left a mark. Just traced around that mark and cut it out perfectly. So now that fits in there. I kept test fitting along the way. Fits in there perfectly, and the best thing is now I've got a template for the other side. So you just reverse it, trace it out again, cut it out, and we've got both sides cut out and ready to install. This stuff's fairly forgiving when you install it. If it's not quite right, you can just peel it off, reapply it, peel it off, place it back on if you need to. So much so that if you ever need to get to do rust repairs, or you need to replace a piece or modify a panel, you can just peel it back off again. So sort of good like that. Just push it and mold it all into place. Again, the blank Stanley knife seems to be the best option that I've got. You may come up with a better option, or there's probably better options out there, but sometimes you just got to use what you got. Righto, the reso mat is down. So righto, let's get the pedal assembly together, and then we can bolt that back into the cab too over our new reso mat. So the first thing I'm going to do is on all these little tabs here that fold over and hold different things in place, is that they're exposed metal now. So I'm just going to get a bit of heat shrink. We're just going to slide that over and heat them up. So it just protects that metal and protects whatever it wraps around. trim the excess off. Just give our components a bit of a clean up. Make it look nice and shiny. Same with the spring, shine it up. Just set the spring into our bracket, slide this through. Just pop the spring over the top. And we just put our little R-clip. And we'll clip that straight down into place. Okay, that's the accelerator pedal done. So that's ready to bolt up. Alright, so we're just going to take all the steering wheel assembly back out. Now that we know all the power steering all lines up and works, and we've done all our modifications and stuff with that, we can put the pedal assembly back in. Slide that straight out. A little bit trickier than I thought it would be. There we go. Okay. Put that in place. Now it's sitting in place, we'll throw our brake booster back in and our clutch master cylinder, put our pedals on, put the steering wheel back in. Hopefully all pretty straightforward. This would be so much easier if I had Jack's help. But school's gone back. They've deemed it safe. So I'm here all alone, doing it by myself. Have to wait till the weekend to get him back out here, I think. This is difficult on your own. My arms aren't long enough to stretch from one side to the other. Okay, slip it over the top. Move up into there. Do this bolt up. Right. Righto, for the clutch pedal, if we adjust this adjuster all the way in, it'll make it a lot easier when we're trying to line up our when we're trying to position our clutch master cylinder lever to bolt it all back up. And then we can readjust this afterwards. Righto, so exactly the same thing for the brake pedal. If we adjust this adjuster all the way out, then it'll make it a lot easier when we're trying to line this all up. Righto, so our accelerator pedal, we're just going to find where the holes are, which we can just push down nice and hard, and you can see the outline of these two holes. Get a little razor blade, just cut away to expose that hole. There's one. Righto. Something I failed to mention before is you've got, when I was putting this together, I didn't tell you about the little nylon washers. So just before your R-clip, you've got a little nylon washer, so make sure you put them on too. Righto, let's get this steering assembly back in. Got my eldest daughter helping me today. You might, I don't even know if I see your hand. And I'm holding the far left bolt. So we might be able to try to get that one first. Just loosely do up a nut on it. Cool, I'll leave that just loose. And then I'll bolt up this and then we'll bolt the whole thing back up again. So I've spent a couple of hours wet sanding. I went from 600 to 1000 to 1500. Cleaned that all up, wiped it all down, started buffing this. It's coming out really, really good. And I've just slipped with the buffer and scuffed the paintwork. So pretty disappointed about that. But I think I can fix it. So I'll show you what I've done. You can see a little bit of different colour difference where I've stuffed up, but I've been able to save it, seal it, fix it up. Extremely disappointed. Righto, so while I was polishing this, as you saw, I took a big gash out of it. I couldn't have been more disappointed. I was so excited, this was coming up so shiny for the paint job that I put on it. It was looking really, really good from my standards anyway. And to do that right near the end, I was just shattered. So anyway, it's actually come up okay. It's sealed it. It's in certain lights you can't see it at all, but you can see it's just a slight different shade. And I think that's because I've just used straight paint out of the touch up there. But I'm gonna have to live with that. That's my mistake. Anyway, it wasn't a total disaster, thank goodness. Anyway.
Dad, why don't you have a haircut?
Because we've been in lockdown.
From on the hairdresser.
Oops.
Cover that back up.
Alright, we're going to rebuild the door hinges. It's pretty straightforward. Just needs a little bit of muscle. Some new bushes. These bushes are just like the original plastic bushes, nothing special. So what we're doing is just chucking the bushes straight in the top and the bottom, the hinge. And then we're going to push that, just slip it in so we know it's lined up. Make sure that this is the right way around. Go back out to the cruiser, slide it in, double check. Because you don't want to get that around the wrong way. You don't want to put the pin in the wrong way either. Just put a little bit of grease on the pin. It'll do two things. It'll make it go in a bit easier, lubricate it, but also just give that little bit of rust protection inside there as well to stop anything rusting up. Push the pin in. Before you get too crazy, we'll go out and double check it on the door to make sure that we haven't got anything around the wrong way or the pin going the wrong way or anything like that. Put the flat edge on the end of the tool bench. Give it a tap with a dead blow hammer until we get to the point of no return. Get a small socket. That small socket will sit on the end of the hinge, and we can put it in the vise, screw it up. The socket will just give that extra room for the end of the pin to come through. I've got an aluminium soft jaw on this end so it doesn't damage the end of the pin, and just your normal jaw face here. And all we're going to do is just start squeezing it up. Righto, so that's done. You can see it's come out of the bottom there, sitting nicely flush at the top. So that was fairly straightforward. There's no damage to the paintwork, no damage to the pin, no crazy banging, and that hinge is solid as. No more sloppy hinges. Actually, it has a nice tight feel to it. You may have remembered how difficult these are to get out. They're even more difficult to get back in, especially this top one. What I've got, hopefully, this will help me. A little bit of a trick. So, picked up this little endoscope off eBay for like 30 bucks. And the cool thing is, it connects to my phone, so we should be able to jam it down the hole and see where our nuts are. Beauty is you can bend and manipulate this, so I'm going to just try and bend it so we can get a nice shot. Oh, my arm is too fat. Oh, I can see what I'm doing. Up and across. Alright. Put that in there. That's a cool little tool. That made things a lot easier.
No, it looks wonky. Not like you need to-
Yeah, I know. If you can just get it done up.
Don't even have to.
Just going to install the side steps. I've made up a rubber gasket, between the step and the body, just to sort of protect the paintwork a bit when Maggie gets out of the way. Charlie's going to give me a hand. Good job.
Cool.
Thanks. Righto, that's it for another episode. So we've got the reso mat down, we've got our side steps on, we rebuilt and got all the hinges on. We've a little bit difficult, but luckily I had my eldest daughter there to be able to fit her hands up and do them up. Guys, I really appreciate your support throughout my project. It's been awesome. So again, guys, feel free to leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell so you can keep up with how the project's going. And until next time, make sure you all take care of yourselves. Today on Inspirations, we're going to look at Juan's FJ40, and he took part in restoring his friend's FJ43. Juan's first FJ40 he got about 4 years ago, and it was a true barn find with only one owner. Needed a fair bit of a tidy up as it was a little abandoned. This was going to be Juan's school on FJ40s. Looking fairly straight and fairly clean, the restoration work was quick to start. Stripping it right back down to the chassis, taking the body off, cleaning all the paint out, and doing any panel beading work that needed to be done. The engine was totally cleaned up and made to look like brand new again. All the smaller components were used with paint with a lot of electrostatic powder, basically powder coating. It didn't take long before Juan's FJ40 really started to come to shape. Juan got his FJ40 painted a beautiful olive 637. Juan's restoration took about 8 months. He was able to enjoy the car for a good 3 years before someone made him the offer that he couldn't refuse. So he regrettably let it go, and now he regrets it every day since. Not long after this, one of his close friends asked him to help restore a 1974 FJ43. This time, a little bit more generous on the funds, and they tried to do things a lot more carefully and using more of original parts, which can be a pretty expensive hobby in Colombia. Fortunately for them, this body had perfect lines and the chassis was spot on. It had never been an accident, had basically no rust, and the advantages of being a single car owner and basically 90% original already, they were able to raise this restoration to the next level. Again, stripping right back down to bare metal, taking all the small components, electrostatic powder coating all of them as well. With reupholstering all the seats. Finishing off in a beautiful sky blue. Juan has a real passion for Land Cruisers, especially the early models. 40 series, 60 series. Juan would love to own his own restoration shop and do this as a full-time job. Mate, I wish you all the best in your dream and hope you can pull it off. Juan's actually started up an Instagram page to share his passion with early Land Cruisers. Classics Biario. My Spanish pronunciations are shocking, so I apologise if I've got it wrong. Actually, my English pronunciations are pretty bad on top of that. Anyway, Juan, I wish you all the success in being able to get your dream off the ground. and being able to bring other people's as well as yours back to life and back to their former glory as they should have been. Sharing him with the rest of Colombia. Fantastic, mate. I encourage you guys to check out his Instagram page and see some of the beautiful work that he's done and some of the other Land Cruisers he's sharing. Until next time, take care of yourselves.